Hey guys, hello and welcome to yet another accounting lesson. In today's lesson, grade 12s, we're going to be focusing on the cash budget as well as looking at debtors or the debtors collection schedule in the question that we're going to attempt. Now, before we start with the actual question, guys, what I want to do is quickly look at the way in which this section will be tested in your exams. So if we look at the most common ways of testing cash budgets, the first way in which the examiner can test this section is by probably asking you to draft the cash budget. In other words, to complete an actual cash budget. Now remember people, when you are asked to draft or to complete the cash budget, you need to make sure that you can distinguish between your cash receipts versus income, as well as cash payments versus expenses. Now remember guys, you've done this in depth. I'm going to just quickly go through the difference between the cash receipt and an income, cash payments and an expense. Let's start with a cash receipt. Let's think of a very common example. I want to sell a vehicle and I sell it for a cash price of, let's assume, 40,000. That 40,000 would be regarded as a receipt of money. In other words, I am receiving cash. Hence, it's going to go into my cash budget. But on the other hand, if I had to ask you to calculate the profit on the sale of this vehicle, and let's assume the profit was 2,000 Rand, that 2,000 would be regarded as your income, not your receipt of cash. Okay, you guys are with me. Right, let's now look at cash payments versus expenses. Let's just put this up a bit. Cash payments, again guys, it's money that is physically leaving your bank account or being paid out. So for example, let's stick with tangible assets. Let's assume the business buys equipment and pays cash an amount of 30,000. 30,000 would be regarded as the payment for that equipment. But if the business had to depreciate this equipment at the financial year or at the year end, and let's assume the depreciation is 1,200, that depreciation would be your expense and hence wouldn't belong into the cash budget. Remember guys, the cash budget is all about receipts, future receipts versus future payments in order for you to establish how much of money I'm going to have in my bank account. Income could be a receipt, but not necessarily does it have to be a receipt. Same would apply to payments. Now, I've touched a bit on non-cash items. Depreciation is one of them, which I've mentioned. It's a non-cash item. It doesn't belong in your cash budget. Another item would be profit or loss on sale of assets. Another item that I can think of is bad debts. All these items are non-cash items. It does not go into the cash budget. So when you're drafting that cash budget, take care of these items. Then the second way in which they could ask you, and a much more common way of asking or testing a cash budget, your knowledge of the cash budget, could be where you are given. Okay guys, you're given the cash budget and then you're required to complete the following. So you could be given the cash budget for the months of September, October and November, and then they ask you to complete maybe a certain section of the cash budget, or they could ask you calculate the increase in salary and wages, calculate the interest that is paid, and so on. You could also be asked to analyze that cash budget, help the business make certain decisions. Should the business use its own funds to buy certain tangible assets, or should the business maybe borrow funds? All of this can be tested in your cash budget. Right, guys, I think I've said enough on the cash budget. Let's now start with a question, and let's go straight into that question. Today, people, we're going to be working from a question that was taken from the November 2011, and let's read. You are provided with the cash budget. You are provided, guys, with the cash budget and related information of Lekazi Furnishes for the 3 months ended 31st December 2011. So immediately I know 3 months ended. I'm obviously now looking at the months of October, the months of November, and obviously the month of December. So those are my 3 budget months. The business is owned by Alfred. Okay, the information number 1, credit terms and credit limits. Okay, so let's go through our information first, guys, and then we'll look at the actual questions that are being asked. Credit terms and credit limits, and this immediately we know is going to apply to your debtors. It is Alfred's policy to grant debtors credit limits of 15,000 Rand each. In other words, if I'm selling to my debtors, their balance or the amount that they are owing my business will not exceed or must not exceed 15,000. That's the limit. That's the point at which I must actually stop selling to them on credit. They are expected to settle their accounts within 30 days from the date of the statement. So your debtors, or Alfred is giving his debtors 1 month in which to settle or pay their accounts. Right, the next bit of information. Sales and cost of sales. Total sales for the past financial year is 960,000, and remember, guys, it's for the year. Then we are told 75% of sales are on credit. So the business, 75% of their sales are on credit. The rest are for cash. Now, guys, remember, total sales represents 100%. If 75% is on credit, obviously, guys, 25% is cash. So I'm going to fill that in. 25% is then obviously my cash sales. Next bit of info. The following sales for October to December, so my budget months, were as follows. October, 81,000. And remember, people, I just want to go back. Total sales. So this will include cash and credit. The total sales for these months. The month of October, 81,000. The month of November, 78,000, and the month of December, 75,000. And I'm just going to make a little note here that this is my total sales. Okay, because we know total sales is 100%. If I had to ask you what is the credit sales, I'm simply going to take my total times it by that 75%, but we're going to get there. Next bit of information, the business uses a markup of 50% on cost at all times. So my cost of sales, if I'm going to calculate my cost of sales, there's my markup, 50%. Stock is replaced on a monthly basis. So obviously, there's no opening stock, there's no closing stock here. 50% of all purchases are for cash. Okay, all purchases are for cash, and the rest are on credit. Again, guys, total purchases is 100%. If 50% is cash, 50% will be on credit. And then I'm told creditors are paid in the month after the purchases in order to receive a 5% discount. Okay, lots of information, and because there's so much of information, guys, what I want to do is just going to quickly change the color of my pen here, and from this point up until here, okay, this deals with sales, okay, guys, and then let's just get a brighter color, green. From this point all the way down here, it's going to deal with cost of sales / purchases. Okay, right, let's read on. Next bit of information number 4. The debtor's age analysis on the 31st of October 2011. Remember, guys, age analysis simply tells you how long a debtor's account has been outstanding. It breaks it up nicely into the number of months a debtor's account is outstanding. Information repeated. Business policy sets credit terms at 15% per account. We came across that, and the credit term is 30 days. Okay, I'm not going to go into this. Not going to go into the debtor's age analysis into detail at this point. We're going to get to that when we come to our question. But for now, these are all my debtors, all 5 of them, and this is how much they are owing us. Okay, and then finally, the last bit of information, guys. I am now given the cash budget. Okay, remember I mentioned earlier on that you could be given the cash budget and then asked questions on the cash budget. So that's a scenario that is presented to us. So there's our cash budget, and again, guys, I'm not going through all of these items just yet, but what I do want to do is just highlight. Remember, cash budget is made up of receipts, payments, and more importantly, what is my cash balance in the bank after taking these items into account. Okay, right, guys, we've gone through the questions. Sorry, not the questions. We've gone through the information. We have an understanding of what the information is all about, or what has been given to us. Let's now move on with the questions. Let's now go to the actual questions. We are required to prepare a debtors collection schedule for the month of November. Okay, so not for all 3 months, October, November, and December, just the month of November. Now, guys, please remember, whenever you are asked to prepare a debtors collection schedule, you are obviously going to be looking at credit sales. Okay. Right, now talking about credit sales, guys, it's just hit me that I probably skipped a bit of information on the next page. So what I'm going to do is, instead of completing this debtors collection schedule, or before completing this, let's just quickly go to that information that I skipped. Debtors collection. And remember, we're going to need this bit of information to complete that debtors collection schedule. Debtors are expected to pay as follows. 25% of debtors settle their accounts in the month of sale. So we've got 25% of our debtors who settle in that month of the actual sale. 40% settle in the month following the sales transaction month. In other words, 40% will pay their account after 30 days. 30% settle in the second month. Okay, so that's obviously 2 months later. And then 5% are written off. Now, 5% written off, guys, remember, this is our bad debts. And guys, when we are doing a cash budget, we're really not interested in bad debts, because remember, it is a non-cash item. It doesn't go into that cash budget. Right, we've got our debtors collection policy. Let's now answer, or let's now complete the schedule. Okay. Right, there we go. For the month of September, given to us credit sales is 63,000. Now, this information is already filled in for us. They are now asking us to calculate what is going to be the November's collection. Okay, so remember, guys, the credit sale is 63,000. So let's now go back to that information. Okay, there we go, 63,000, and I'm just going to write it in so we don't have to keep on turning to that amount or to that slide. There's my 63,000. 25% of the debtors settle their accounts in the month of sale. So in other words, 25%, guys, will be collected in that month of sale. In other words, in that month of September. You guys are with me? Okay. Then 40% will settle in the month following the sales transaction. So 40% will then be collected in the next month, after the month of sale, after September, which is the month of October, which I really don't want. I want November. What am I going to receive from my debtors in that month of November? So let's now go to the next bit. So I've done 25%, I've done 40%, now let's go to 30%. 30% settle in the second month, in other words, the 60 days. So 30% of this 63,000 is going to be collected in 2 months after the month of sale, in other words, in the month of November. And guys, that's what I want. That's what I'm going to collect in that month of November. So 63,000, let's get our calculators out. Just move this. Okay, so I've got 63,000 times 30%, and that gives me 18,900, which I will collect in that month of November. So let's fill that in. Okay, so it's the amount of 18,900. Okay, guys, easy stuff. Let's move on now to the next month, which is the month of October. For the month of October, the credit sales is missing. It's not given to me. So I now have to calculate first what is the credit sales before I can actually work out what I'm going to collect in the month of November. So let's start with the credit sales for the month of October. And again, we're going back to our information. Let's just get rid of that calculator. Okay, so there we go. So remember, we're looking at sales and we want to work out the credit sales for the month of October. So I'm now going to go to my info, and I've got total sales for October to December. And remember, guys, I want the credit sales for the month of October. Now my total sales is 81,000. Okay, so let's now write that down. Guys, I'm going to use this space here to write this down. So we've got 81,000, which is my total sales. But remember, I want credit sales. So my credit sales, guys, there's it at the top here. 75% of sales are on credit. So 81,000 times 75%. Okay, is going to give me my credit sales for the month of October. So let's now get our calculators out. Let's clear this. So I've got 81,000 times 75%, guys, and my credit sales is an amount of 60,750. So immediately, let's take that through to our answer sheet. Okay, and let's fill that in. Okay, credit sales is an amount of 60,750. Okay, guys, and now we're ready to work out what is the November collection. Okay, now again, guys, back to the info. That's our credit sales. So let's now go back to the info. Okay, and back to the debtors collection schedule. Right, guys, now I know there's quite a bit here. Let's take this out because we're now done with this. Okay, I'm going to just quickly rewrite my credit sales. Okay, so let's just find that credit sales. What was it? 60,750. Okay, so let's just write that down. 60,000 750. And again, guys, we start with the schedule. 25% of debtors settle their account in the month of sale. So remember, this sale happens in October. So 25% will pay in the month of October. And remember, I don't want October, I want November. Then I've got 40% settle in the month following the sale. In other words, 1 month later will be 40% will be collected or received. So 1 month after October is your month of November. Do I want the month of November? Yes, I do. So immediately get my calculator out, the amount 60,750, that's my credit sale, times 40%, guys, and I will collect in November for this credit sale 24,300. So let's fill that in. Okay, so we're filling in an amount of 24,000, guys, 300. Okay, right. Great stuff. Easy, not difficult. Okay, the last month, which is the month of November, and they've given me the credit sales. I don't have to calculate the credit sales. And remember, guys, still just calculating the November collection. If I've sold this on credit in November, how many percent of debtors will pay, or what will I collect in terms of percentage for this month of November? We've been through it. 25%. Good. Let's just double check that. Yeah, it's 25% of debtors settle their accounts in the month of sale. So if we sold in November, 25%, sorry, not November, yeah, it is November, guys. If we sold in November, 25% will pay in November, or 25% of that debt will be collected in November. So let's go back to our answer sheet. Okay, and let's take out our calculators. Just want to move this slightly. So we've got 58,500 times 25%, guys, and we will collect 14,625. So let's just write that in. 14,000, guys, 625, and now I'm ready to simply total. So let's total. Okay, I've already got 14,625, so I'm now adding 24,300 and then plus 18,900 to give me 57,825. So let's just write that down. 57,825. Okay, right, guys, this question here was for 8 marks, 8 simple marks, but be very careful with your calculations. Make sure, I know I haven't shown anything in brackets, but if you can, show your calculations in brackets, just in case you get these amounts incorrect. Right, guys, I think we should take a little break. Maybe you want to go into the kitchen, grab a glass of water, or get some juice to drink. I know it's quite hot in these months, but let's take a quick break, and when we return, we will continue with this question. Welcome back, guys. If you've just joined us, we're busy with the cash budget. It's a question that was taken from the November 2011 paper, and we're now busy to move on to question 1.2. So let's move on. Calculate the figures indicated by A and E in the cash budget, and this is for, guys, 11 marks. So let's now go to our info, let's go to the cash budget, and let's find these letters and let's do the calculations. Okay, there we go, cash budget, and let's now find the letters that we need to calculate. Now, if we look at A, there's our A down here. Let's get a pen there. Okay, there's A. Now, guys, A is absolutely simple. There's no calculation whatsoever. It's just a figure that we've got to fill in. Now remember, we are given, or let's look at what A represents. A represents the cash at the beginning of the month. for December. In other words, how much of money are we expected to have in our account on the 1st of December? The beginning of the month would be the 1st of December. Now, for this figure, I can hear you guys, I can almost hear you guys. Yes, absolutely correct. I've got to look at November. How much of money was in the November bank account at the end of the month, at the end of November itself? So if we go to the month of November, and if we look at cash at the end of the month, cash balance, so your bank balance was sitting at 39,190, which immediately means if this was the balance on the 30th of November, this closing balance becomes the opening balance for the month of December. So immediately, guys, A is quite easy, 39,190, no calculations whatsoever. I'm going to get my marks for this one. Okay, let's move on now to the next letter, which is B. Right, if we look at B, B represents what is your cash at the end of the month for the month of December. And again, very straightforward. I've got my cash at the beginning of the month. I've also got a surplus, sorry, not surplus, it's in brackets, guys, so it represents a deficit for the month, 23,220. So let's now work out what is our cash balance at the end of the month. So let's get our calculators out, clear that up. So I've got 39,190 in my bank account, but I'm obviously going to overspend. There's going to be a deficit of 23,220, and it's in brackets, so I'm going to subtract 23,220, guys, and I'm ending up with 15,970. So that is B. That is your cash at the end of the month. So let's fill that amount in. Okay, and it's an amount of, guys, 15,970. Let's double check that. Yep, 15,970. Okay, so we've done A and we've done B. Let's now find C. Okay, C we've got, there we go, there's our C, cash sales, and it's for the month of October. So they want us to calculate what is the cash sales for the month of October. So for that, let's go back to our information. Okay, so remember, guys, we're dealing with sales. So it's going to be somewhere here. Total sales, don't want that. Let's go to the bottom here. The total sales for October to December were as follows. October, 81,000. So again, guys, that's my total sales. Okay, there, 81,000. Remember, I want cash sales, and my cash sales, if we go further up, 75% of sales are on credit. No, I don't want credit. The rest are for cash. So the 25% of 81,000 is going to give me my cash sales for October. So let's get our calculators out. Okay, so remember, I'm taking the total sales for October, 81,000, times I want cash sales, which is 25%. And that gives me my 20,250, which is my credit, sorry, not credit, but my cash sale. So let's fill that in. Okay, so C would be an amount of, guys, 20,250. Okay, you would obviously fill this in that answer sheet. I'm doing it on the actual question or the information itself. Right, I've done A, B, and C. Let's now find D. Okay, D, there we go. D represents purchase of stock for cash, and it represents the month of October 2011. Right, so remember, guys, we're now dealing with purchase of stock. not sales anymore, but purchase. So let's find our info that helps us, or is going to help us to calculate this. Okay, purchase of stock. There we go. There's my purchase, my cost of sales, purchase. So I've got here, the business uses a markup of 50% on cost at all times. 50% of all purchases are for cash and the rest are on credit. So I'm going to now use this information and I'm going to do that calculation. Okay, so if we go back a bit. Okay, so I've got purchase of stock for cash. The very first thing I've got to do, guys, is try and calculate what is my stock value, the value of stock that is for cash. And for that, I'm going to go back to my answer sheet because this is going to require a bit of calculation, guys. Okay, and we're busy with D. Okay, we've done all of these. Let's now move on to D, and D is my cash purchase of stock. Okay, and let's now go to my information one more time. Okay, the next page. Right, there we go. And remember, guys, it's obviously for that month of October. Now, if you look at the information that is given to me, I am given a markup of 50% on cost, and I am given sales. So if I want to calculate cost of sales, guys, you've done this from grade 8, I obviously can calculate my cost of sales using my sales together with my markup. So that's exactly what I'm going to do. So there's my October sales, 81,000, there's a markup of 50%. So let's now calculate your cost of sales first. Okay, cost of sales is equal to, I'm going to take my 81,000, which is my sales, times this by 100, divide it by 150, 100 plus markup gives me the 150 to get cost of sales. Okay, let's just clear that. 81,000, guys, times 100, move that a bit, divided by 150, and my cost of sales is 54,000. Okay, so let's fill that in. 54,000. Once I've got my cost of sales, remember, guys, I'm sure you did this concept in class. I'm just going to recap on it. Your total purchases is equal to cost of sales, correct, plus any stock withdrawals by the owner, if the owner has taken out stock for personal use. But in this case, we don't have any stock withdrawals by the owner, which means total purchases is equal to cost of sales. So once I've got my cost of sales, like I have, cost of sales 54,000, this now is equal to total purchases. But hang on, the question wants me to calculate cash purchases. So once I've got total purchases, it becomes easy now for me to get that cash purchase. So let's go back to the information and let's double check on what was the percentage of the cash purchase. Okay, 50% of all purchases are for cash. There we go. So simple. Back to my answer sheet. Okay, I've got my total purchases, 54,000. And I simply need 50% of that. My cash purchase for the month is 27,000. I'm going to fill that in, so the answer is 27,000. Okay. Right, guys, let's move on now to E. So let's go back to that budget. Okay, there we go. We've got, so we've done D, there's our E. Right, for E, E represents payments to creditors, and it's for the month of November. And again, guys, I'm going to use the answer sheet to answer this. So let's go back to the answer sheet. We are looking at E. Let's just bring that down a bit. So we're going to calculate payments to creditors, and it's for the month of November. How much are we going to pay our creditors in that month of November? Again, guys, the first thing we've got to do is try and calculate what is the total purchases and then work from that bit of information. So back to the question. Okay. Right, there we go. So we've got, in terms of the information with regards to payments to creditors, and let's try and stick with the pink. Creditors are paid in the month after the purchases in order to receive a 5% discount. Okay, guys, now how does this work? We buy on credit. So if, for example, I bought on credit in June, I will then pay 1 month later, which is the month of July, and I then receive a 5% discount. Now remember, the question wants us to calculate what is the payment that is made to your creditors in the month of November. So remember, November's payments means that I bought 1 month before, which is the month of October. If I purchase in October, I pay in November, and I get that 5% discount. So I now need to first calculate what was my October's purchase. What was my October's credit purchase? So again, if we go to the information in the month of October, okay, I've got 81,000, that's my sales. I'm going to go quickly back to your answer sheet, okay, because we already did this. Your total purchase was 27,000, sorry. So let's just, sorry, not 21,000, it was 54,000. I'm looking at the wrong amount. So there was my total purchase. Remember, this amount represented my cash purchase. So my total purchase was 54,000. So I'm going to write that down, 54,000. And let's now go to the information itself one more time. I'm looking for what was my credit purchase. 50% of all purchases are for cash, the rest are on credit, so 50% is also on credit. So 27,000 times 50%, and that also gives me the 27,000. But remember, I'm not going to pay my creditors 27,000 because according to the information, I receive a 5% discount. Okay, so 27,000 times, I'm not paying them 100%, but 100 minus 5, which means I only pay them 95%. Okay, so let's get our calculators out. 27,000 times 95%, and that gives us 25,650. So let's fill that in. So the payment made to creditors, 25,650. Okay, guys, not difficult calculations, very, very straightforward. Please remember, people, you've got to show the examiner your calculations as you go along. Show us some calculations. Right, I think it's ready. We're ready to take another break. Let's take a quick break, and when you come back, we'll continue with this question. See you in a bit. Welcome back, guys. Let's now carry on with this question on budgets. Remember, we're busy working from the November 2011 question 5. Right, let's now go to our next question. Calculate the debtor's average collection period. Debtor's average collection period in days for the financial year ended 31st October 2011. Okay, so a bit of ratio analysis in this question. Note the actual balance in the debtors control account was 79,500 at the beginning of the financial year and 83,500 at the end of the financial year. And then we are asked to explain whether Alfred, remember guys, Alfred is the owner, should he be satisfied with this collection period? Give one reason for your opinion. Right, let's do the calculation first and let's see whether he should be satisfied or not. Now, if I'm going to calculate debtors' average collection period, I've already written it down, guys. Remember your ratios. I am taking my average debtors, divide that by my credit sales. They want the answer in days, so times 365. Let's start with average debtors, and I know you remember how to do this calculation. Average debtors, I'm looking at half of my opening balance, so 79,500 plus year-end balance 83,500. Okay, divided by credit sales. Now remember, you're looking at sales for the entire year. You're looking at credit sales for the entire year. So if we go to our information, and this was given to us right at the beginning of the question, or the information itself, we've got total sales for the past financial year, 960,000. And remember, we don't want total sales, but we want credit sales. And we came across this before. 75% of sales are on credit. So if I take my total sales for the year, which is 960,000, times this by 75%, my credit sales 720,000. So let's take that through. So I've got my credit sales, there we go, 720,000. And remember, we're going to multiply this by 365. So let's get our calculators out. Let's first calculate what is our average debtors. So 79,500, guys. I'm adding on 83,500, okay, and then remember I divide this by 2. That gives me my average debtors. Take your average debtors, divide this by 720,000, okay, and then I'm going to times this by 365, and that's going to give me 41,3 if I round off to the first decimal. So if I write this down, and remember I'm writing it down in days, so they can't be 41,3 days. I'm just going to round it off to 41 days. Okay, now what does this ratio tell us? It tells us how long debtors are taking to settle their accounts. 41 days. Now remember guys, right at the beginning of the question, how long did Alfred give his debtors to settle their accounts? Correct, only 30 days. But his debtors are taking 41 days to settle their account, 11 days longer. So immediately, should Alfred be satisfied? And remember guys, it can't be maybe. Okay, when we mark, we often find, instead of telling us yes or no, some of you tell us maybe. Okay, it can't be somewhere in the middle. It either has to be yes or no. The answer in this case would be a definite no. Okay, he should not be satisfied. The reason? Debtors are taking 41 days to settle their accounts. And remember, the time that they are given is 30 days. So they're obviously taking too long to settle their accounts. We obviously need them to pay us so that we can pay our creditors on time. But that's not happening. They're taking 41 days to settle their accounts. Okay, let's move on now to our next question, guys. 1.4, refer to the debtor's age analysis. Alfred feels that he has problems in controlling debtors. Give 2 different reasons why he feels this way, and we're required to explain. In each case, we must also identify the problem debtor or problem debtors. So let's now go to that debtor's age analysis. Let's firstly identify 2 different reasons why he's feeling this way, and let's see who's the debtors responsible for making him feel this way. So let's go to our information. Okay, there's that age analysis. So we've got 5 debtors, and at the top it clearly tells us the business policy sets credit limits at 15%. The credit terms are 30 days. So immediately, let's see now if there is a problem. Let's start with the credit limit. Okay, let's start with this credit limit. Let's see if there's a problem. It should be 15,000 Rand per account. So A. Botha, he's sticking with the 15,000. So in terms of credit limit, he's fine. Look at D. Scott, guys. 29,000. So immediately, can you see he has exceeded that credit limit? So immediately, exceeding credit limit would obviously be one of our reasons, and the debtor responsible would be D. Scott. He's buying way too much on credit. The limit is only 15,000. He's purchased for 29,000. P. Raj, in terms of the credit limit, he seems fine, 8,500. C. and Thuli, in terms of the credit limit, again, guys, can you see? Okay, this guy as well has exceeded that credit limit. And N. Impo, this guy seems okay, 14,600. So our first answer, and I'm just going to write it up here, is 2 debtors are exceeding the credit limit of 15,000. And remember, people, the question wants you to mention who the 2 debtors are. I'm not going to write it down for you, but the 2 debtors that are exceeding this credit limit is obviously D. Scott. He's the one guy guilty, and then C. and Thuli is the other guy. Okay, so we've identified one reason why he should be upset. Let's now look at the second reason. The second reason, your credit limit is 30 days. Debtors should settle their accounts within 30 days. Now, we already know that there's a problem. Debtors are taking 41 days to settle their accounts. So let's now look at which debtor is guilty of this offense. Okay, so let's start with A. Botha. He's fine with the credit limit. Current month, okay, he's also absolutely fine. Okay, D. Scott. There's obviously a problem here with the credit limit, but then let's look at whether he's paying his account on time. So current month, within 30 days, he's owing us 10,000. Then more 30 days or more, 5,000, 60 days, 2,000, more than 60 days, guys, 12,000. So immediately there's a huge problem here. Okay, let's look at P. Raj. P. Raj is owing us 8,500. He's fine. He hasn't exceeded the credit limit. But if you look at him, it seems as though this guy has just disappeared, vanished, because he purchased, okay, 60 days ago. He's owing us 8,500. Hasn't purchased ever since. Hasn't paid us. So immediately there's obviously some concern there. Okay, C. and Thuli, he's exceeded the credit limit. Okay, and again, can you see he's not paying us on time either? Okay, and D. Impo hasn't exceeded the credit limit, but again, he's obviously owing us for more than 30 days. So immediately, guys, your second reason, if you look, okay, we've got 3 debtors. I'm sure it was 3. 3 debtors are taking longer than 30 days to settle their account. And remember, mention the debtors, mention who's taking longer than 30 days to settle the account. Right, guys, we're moving on now. I think it's the last question. Let's see how far we can get with that last question. Okay, 1.5, calculate the percentage increase in salaries and wages in December 2011. And then we are told one of the employees, Mona Lot, is not happy with this increase. State 2 points in response to her complaint, and it's obviously for 4 marks. So let's firstly calculate the percentage increase, okay, for the month of December. Right, so back to our budget. There we go, and we're looking at salaries and wages. Okay, so if we notice, it was 22,000, November 22,000, December it's gone up to 23,760. So there's obviously an increase that happened in December. The question wants us to calculate the percentage increase. Okay, I know you've done this lots and lots of times, but let's just go through it one more time, guys. The new salary and wages, or the December salary and wages, is 23,760. We're going to subtract the November salary, 22,000. So the increase is 1,760. I'm going to take my increase. I'm going to then divide it by the 22,000, guys, and I'm going to times it by 100 to get my increase, which is 8%. Okay, not difficult to calculate. Let's go back to our answer sheet, and remember, you showing us calculations, but the percentage is 8%. Then we've got this one employee, Mona, who is not happy with this increase. State 2 points in response to this complaint that she's got. Right, now if we look at the increase of 8%, is it that bad? Okay, probably isn't, because if we compare the increase to the inflation rate, okay, 8% in comparison to the inflation rate is quite fair. 8% is a fair increase. Then, if we go back to the budget itself, and if we look at, for example, let's look at sales. Okay, sorry, not the budget, but let's just go back to the information on sales. Okay, if we examine our sales, 81,000, 78,000, 75,000, can you see there's been a drop in sales? So sales is obviously decreasing. And if we examine, guys, if we examine the bank balance, so the bank balance had a healthy balance of 64,715. In November, the bank balance has dropped to 39,190. Now it's down to 15,970. So you can obviously see that this business, there's some kind of struggle in terms of finance, in terms of cash flow, where the business seems to be paying out much more than receiving money. Okay, so again, this clearly shows that she should be happy that she's got a job, that she's got an increase of 8%, despite the business selling less, despite the business having less money in their bank account. Okay, right, guys, I think we've come to the end of this section. Good luck for your preparation for that big exam. Please remember, you need to try and be calm. Don't stress. I'm sure you've done the necessary preparation that is required for this exam. And from myself, Mahesh Lal, all I want to say, guys, is good luck, God bless, and go out there and do your absolute best.